one of the battles we're seeing is this unfolding violence by ICE agents, often in masks. And now I don't know what number we're up to, but we're certainly up to at least it seems like a half a dozen elected officials who have been, wrestled to the ground or, brutalized in various ways. Not as brutalized as George Floyd was a few years ago, but manhandled for being in public spaces or daring to ask a question, like with Alex Padilla. But we're seeing this real aggressiveness by ICE agents toward Democratic officials who dare to ask questions about what's going on. And obviously, we've seen other things unfolding in terms of the raids and the way that students have been targeted for exercising their First Amendment rights. We've been hearing reports about how Stephen Miller, that monstrous man who grew up in Southern California as a kind of guy who just hated the libs or whatever, and was taken under the wing of David Horowitz, one of the major propagandists of the right, who passed away in recent years with a pretty good wealthy fortune, having gotten pretty rich on his propaganda campaigns. But Stephen Miller, who was really cultivated by the right, embraced by Trump in the first administration, now has another post in this administration where he reportedly went into a room with officials from DHS and demanded that they do more, arrest more people, drum up more numbers, get the numbers, because it's a lie. What the American people have been told about the crisis in immigration, the notion that our streets are filled with criminal, violent aliens, it's a lie. There aren't that many people that they can arrest who have not already been arrested. The small minority of people who engage in criminal activity, who are citizens or not citizens, once they finish their sentence, if they're not a citizen, they are deported from this country, transferred out of this country or transferred into a facility if they are from one of the rare countries that we don't have diplomatic relations with and can't return them. And so because they can't actually deport 20 million people, supposed violent criminals. They're going after other people, about people who are, washing dishes and working at hotels, cleaning hotel rooms, and nannies going to a park in Los Angeles and separating the nannies from the kids that they're watching, putting the kids in custody. They're assailing American citizens who have their identification with them, discounting their identities, official identification. So we have this extraordinary aggressiveness by a police-like force that actually has not been trained in police-like requirements, probable cause, a warrant. And that's not to say that all police follow those rules, but at least there's a set of rules that they're supposed to be following before they seize someone. And now we have ICE roving in ways beyond the sort of raids we saw in the first Trump administration or even the raids under Obama or Biden. We have this very aggressive use of force and then moving people into facilities and then moving them around the country so that they're away from their family and lawyers, so they're in different jurisdictions to try to jurisdiction shop, judge shop to get to the right court to try to keep them from exercising their rights. We have this whole thing unfolding by Trump, in part at the instigation of Stephen Miller whispering in his ear and, driving this wedge issue like, 21st century Roy Cohn. And I am shocked by the treatment of people in general, but also of elected officials. Not that they're entitled to more rights than ordinary people, but just the aggressiveness, the arrogance that their treatment shows or demonstrates from this administration. I don't know. What do you think, Nadine?
Yeah. I was going to say that's our the intended response of seeing a senator taken to the ground, to seeing charges being brought against duly elected Democratic officials, is to say, if they're not protected, surely I cannot step into that space. One of the things that we learned early was if an American citizen was present when somebody who was here going through the legal process, when they got to court, they were less likely to disappear that person if an American citizen was with them. So the comptroller in New York was for weeks going to court with immigrants for the purpose of making sure that, they weren't alone and they weren't simply going to be snatched up. And so to purposely have him grabbed up by someone in full face mask, no identity. He was saying, "I will get out of your way when you show me the warrant. You have to have a warrant. You can't just grab people up." And they ignored him, wrenched the man away from him, and arrested him. These are the most basic rights that we have. And so to the degree that we have normalized, or they have normalized, that people without warrants who are completely unidentifiable, who refuse to identify themselves or show that they have any legal authority to snatch people up, and those people cannot be found until they've been shipped off to El Salvador in a way that the administration then says, "Hey, we can't get them back even if we wanted to." Like, all of this is intentional. They went after mayors and Congress members who are supposed to be able to have surprise inspections of these facilities. They're being turned away at the door. All of it is about making us fearful, giving the illusion that the rules need not apply any longer to them. And so it is even more important. Every time they take one Democrat to the ground, every single Congress member should insist on replacing them. We cannot allow them to believe that this is going to have the effect they intend it to, which is pure intimidation.